Welcome aboard to another episode of Tree Service Marketing Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Wesley Smith with Tree Service Digital and the Facebook group Tree Service Marketing Secrets. If you haven't joined that group, go to Facebook and search for Tree Service Marketing Secrets. We've got a lot of good content in there. So today we have an episode. Kurt Stenberg is joining us from Canada. He's going to tell his business story and a couple other cool topics. Kurt, welcome aboard, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for sharing your story. It really helps a lot of other business owners in the same niche. Everybody kind of likes to hear from other business owners doing the same thing they're doing or kind of different journeys to get to the destination. So tell us a little bit about like maybe how you got started in the tree service business, where you're located, kind of what you're doing.
Sure, sounds good. Yeah, I'm interested as well in other people's journeys because I feel kind of like a lone wolf up here. I do a lot of tree work by myself in a small community, and I didn't like grow up and go through the same paces as maybe lots of other guys that worked for a few different companies and started as a groundsman and kind of worked their way up. So yeah, I think I'm doing a good job, and I only know what I've learned through some courses in school through Arboriculture Canada, but maybe it's good I didn't build up any bad habits or anything, but I'm sure there's a few I could probably work on. But yeah, I'm from Cochrane, Alberta in Canada, so it's near Calgary or Banff if anyone's been up here. It's in the foothills, so it's a lot of grasslands and some smaller trees, which is great. So I can manage those with a little less overhead. I don't have a big company with a big forestry truck and chipper or anything like that. I run a pickup truck and trailer, and have 1 to 2 helpers, kind of part-time, that help me out, and that seems to be pretty good at managing everything I need to do here. I'm lucky enough to dump some of my loads just west of town, so I kind of have like a little niche setup for my business. But I wasn't always an arborist. I started out as a firefighter EMT for about 16 years here in Alberta at a few different departments. Last one was in Red Deer, and it was a combined EMT fire service. So I was there probably for about 8 years, and then I was diagnosed with PTSD and some other things that just got to be too overwhelming, not even knowing that it was happening. So I was kind of forced through WCB, if anyone's familiar with that. It's kind of like it's the Workers' Compensation Board, but they ultimately forced me out of that career and had to find a new career. So I was kind of floundering for a year or two, trying to heal up some new mental health things that I was now aware of, and also find a new career. I did some job tests, and horticulture kept coming back up. So I didn't even really know what horticulture was. And I'd never seen an arborist, but one day I came across an arborist, maybe like a picture of some guy in a tree with some chainsaws attached to his hip, and I was like, oh man, that's for me for sure. Like, I love chainsaws. I did some wildfire fighting back in the day, so I love cutting trees and being out there in nature, and I needed to find a place where I could connect with nature, but also just be outside, work for myself, think differently. And as soon as I found an arborist career, it just hit me, and I knew I had to do it. So I fired up some courses with Arboriculture Canada right away, or as soon as I could, and an Instagram account so I could follow some other people and kind of get to know what the industry was like, at least through social media. And that's how it started.
Awesome. So it's kind of divine intervention is what kind of led you into the tree service arboricultural field. It sounds like, right? Like sometimes life events happen and everybody has them at some stage of their life, no matter if it's young or it's middle stages, or in the older years. But it sounds like that kind of came upon you. There's an opportunity there to kind of pivot and do something different. And you kind of chose that because it's basically kind of something that you're interested in. It sounds like you did some searching and things like that, and you found out that tree service was something you're interested in. And arborist and arboriculture, I think, is a very growing field, especially kind of the saving trees and the health of trees and things like that moving forward. Because if you rip out all the trees and clear all the land across the country or in Canada, everywhere else, there's not going to be as many standing. So there's definitely some detriments to that. So I think being a part of the tree health side of things is a good thing moving forward. It's a growing field. And so from there, man, you kind of started learning the business. Did you just go into business for yourself and start doing it on your own from the beginning, or did you get any kind of experience under your belt with another tree company type thing? How'd that go?
Yeah, great question. So being a little bit more mature, I just turned 40 this year. I had some life experience, obviously, from the fire department things. Like, I was able to communicate with people really well, especially in stressful situations and things like that. And initially, I didn't think there was going to be many transferable skills that led over to being an entrepreneur, starting my own business, or just being an arborist in general. But it turns out there was actually quite a bit, and everything really does come down to, like a lot of human psychology or just good customer interactions and making people happy at the end of the day, running a business. So that definitely came in handy. But so first I went off to actually I got a few jobs with some like Davy Tree, and I mentored, like, just job shadowed, I guess you'd say, under a couple other arborists local in the area, just to kind of see how they ran things day to day. Was really observant to see how they did their work and work together, what kind of equipment they used. I worked for Davy Tree for, I think, 2 days before I got fired. Uh, so that was kind of a bit of a setback, but I had some stickers on my truck that said I was an arborist, and I was looking to do some like pruning and that sort of thing. So I didn't realize that they don't want you advertising yourself as an arborist elsewhere if you work for Davy Tree. It was one of their policies. So there I was, fired on day 2 from Davy Tree, looking to still get into arboriculture, not knowing what to do. But it only motivated me more to get things going. So through some of these courses, I took the production tree removal and rigging course as my first course. Figured I could kind of fill in the blanks and ask a bunch of questions and get myself started. And that's where I met Johnny Corthias. He's an industry leader in arboriculture. And he kind of took me under his wing and mentored me. So I would travel down about 3 hours to Lethbridge, where he's from, and do some bigger tree days with him and just stay with him for a day or two, ask a ton of questions, and try and get myself up to speed. And by this point, I'd already decided that I wanted to start my own tree company. So I basically had a list of values that I had that I wanted to fill and check off these boxes if I was going to start a new career. So like we were talking about before, one of them was I wanted to work outside, wanted to be in nature. I wanted to work for myself, control my own schedule. I didn't want to have to commute to the big city that we're near, because we're kind of a suburb. I didn't want to waste time, like just in life in general, spending an hour each day commuting to try and find work. Like, I didn't want to work to live. I kind of wanted to live to work. I'd kind of been through the whole fire department thing. So I wanted my time off to be substantial enough that I could do things with my family and all this kind of stuff. So that's where starting my own business really came in.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people work for a tree company for years, or they move their way up there, become the crew lead, or become operations at a tree company, and pretty much on the job training. You're getting paid to learn the business and kind of inner workings of how the business works, from, a lead coming in to booking the appointment, going out and giving the estimate, maybe negotiating or talking through it, and then getting to work, and then completing the work, cleaning up the job site, and moving on to the next one. So like, if you see all of that happen day to day, week to week, month to month, you kind of get an idea of the business and how it works. And then from there, yeah, it sounds like you kind of quickly pivoted and started your own company after the Davy experience. It was, relatively brief there. And then went into business for yourself, and just, you probably kind of knew most of everything that you needed to know to get going. But I mean, entrepreneurship, like you said before, it is kind of like being out on an island. So once you got going, you said you had like a mentor, I think, that you mentioned a minute ago, that helped you kind of just maybe put some of the puzzle pieces together and kind of help you kind of get launched. Is that kind of how it worked?
Yeah, totally. So he was, like I said, one of the instructors at Arboriculture Canada too. So he was highly skilled, and he was good enough to kind of donate or sell me a bunch of gear, if not for a lot of money that he had that was kind of used to get me set up. And then just through some other small businesses I'd kind of started over the years with some photography. We sold microgreens at one point, to some different little things. I kind of had an idea of how to start a small business. So just little things like, obviously choosing a name, getting a logo, getting a Gmail account set up and an Instagram and all that kind of stuff, and getting yourself out there to advertise. So I would use, local Google ads and Instagram social media ads to kind of get my name out there. And then just started receiving calls. But it was definitely tricky in the beginning, because I kind of felt, or didn't want to feel like an imposter, like I was going out there to prune someone's tree without supervision. So this kind of led me down the road of like really needed to find a lot of education quickly. So I would do a lot of mentorship, read a ton of books, obviously learned through some experience. But although I think I did a pretty good job still in the beginning, but nothing like I am now, it definitely took me a lot longer to prune a tree than as it does now with experience. I can pretty much do it subconsciously, it seems like. So it was just like a steep learning curve in the beginning, but also really exciting.
Awesome. And when you first got started, let's talk about that just for a minute, because a lot of people bootstrap and get going, and they're, hey, I'm doing this. I've got my own business. Some people, put their toe in the water and start on the side, which I think is probably the less risky way to do it. But if you're working for a tree company, it's kind of a conflict of interest, sort of like what happened with Davey, right? So like you're working for a tree company, but you're also marketing over here that you're starting your own business. So it kind of can be conflict of interest, especially if you're in the same exact market. So if you just pivot and go forward with it, you kind of burn the bridge, as they say, right? And
Yeah.
move forward with your new tree service business. Talk about like how you got your first handful, 20, 30 customers. How did those transpire? How did you get those customers coming into your business?
Oh man, it's a little while ago now. It's probably 4 or 5 years since I started everything up, but I think it was just through some ads. I initially may have even posted on like some Facebook groups just in the community, or like Kijiji. You guys have, I don't know if you have Kijiji down there, or
Those
Craigslist,
local
that
Facebook
kind of
groups
thing.
I've heard work pretty well too. Just local community groups and stuff like buy sell.
Yeah,
Yeah, little things like that.
exactly. So our community's, small. There wasn't really any arborists here too, so it kind of worked out, and I saw that opportunity that I could start up. Like I don't think any other guys could start a full-time company here because a lot of them run chippers and trucks, and then if they want to employ somebody full-time, they're going to be going outside of Cochrane to find more work just to keep themselves sustained. Whereas, with the help of WCB being off of the fire department, I had some financial top up, I guess you would say, because I was, forced to leave my career. So I only needed to earn a small amount of money, especially for a little while they would kind of help me out to get back on my feet. So I didn't have this pressure, fortunately, which makes me a little bit different than other people, but I didn't have this pressure to earn a ton of money right away. So that really took a lot of stress off. So I was able to start slow and kind of ramp things up. But, it didn't take long before I was making enough money doing that, being an arborist, that it wasn't a big deal. So looking back, it's like that was an influencing factor that I would have needed to hold me back in order to do it. So I wouldn't say it's not possible for other people to start their own business and just go for it. And I liked your analogy there of burning the bridges. I just read Think and Grow Rich, and they have that one pillar of thought where they use that story where the guys came to shore and they burnt all their ships, so they had no choice but to fight their way to victory. And that was kind of part of it, man. It was like I had to find something. I just went for it, and I had that like burning desire to be an arborist. I just kind of knew, so it worked out great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much. I think I saw something at one point. There was like, well, what was Plan B? And it was like, well, there was no Plan B. It was Plan A, and that's it, right? So
Yeah.
you start your
Yeah.
business. I mean, you're literally going down this road of, hey, I'm starting the business. I've got to tell everybody that I'm in business so that I can get people calling me and interested in going out and giving some estimates or just talking to people about their trees and consulting about arborists type, circumstances with people's trees, things like that. So one of the things that we talk about just within our community, and you may have done some of these things too, I don't know, but what the first thing is get business cards printed and hand those out to everybody within 5 feet of you every day, all day. The next thing is maybe get signs done. These are things that you can put more effort into and they're less cost to
Mm,
get going. So order signs and put those out frequently, make sure you watch out for sign ordinances and things like that. But signs work really well, street signs, yard signs with the stakes. You can do every door direct mail, save yourself some money by doing the printing and getting a print shop and doing those locally in certain zip codes that you want to target. Get a minimum viable website up, get your Google business profile on the maps verified. That's kind of the first thing to getting on the Google
yeah.
Maps, and it's free. It just takes a little bit of work to get it verified there.
Yeah.
And then, a couple other little things like that where you're just kind of proactively pushing out, your business and marketing, and then also wrap your trucks. If you have a truck and maybe when you
Mhm.
first start, you're on a tight budget, you can't just do a big, nice, gigantic truck wrap, but you can at least get signs made, right, for a few $100 and magnets and put those on the truck because otherwise,
Totally.
yeah, they don't know who you are if you're driving around. But if you're in neighborhoods all day, driving around residential areas, people will call off those. So were you doing
Yeah.
things too?
Yeah, exactly those things you just mentioned. So I didn't go for the full truck wrap right away, but definitely got like some signs made up for each side of the truck, and then some little yard signs. You don't want to spend much money in the beginning because you don't have a lot of money. So that's kind of where you start. And yeah, those paid off for sure. You find a client that is really happy with you, and a lot of people like to support someone that's new and starting out, and then we just try and keep that relationship really positive, especially when I left. And then they would often give word of mouth to their neighbors, or it would just start to snowball as you would start to get a little bit of business, and then before you know it, you're rolling. But yeah, other than that, I mean, a lot of Instagram. I did a lot of social media research because when I started out, it was in the fall, and most the tree companies here are kind of shutting down this time of year because we get kind of a cold winter and it's not really reliable for work. So I spent a lot of time online and doing a lot of research, just how to use hashtags and how to get my name out there for free through social media, so that I was kind of ready to go. So I had, 3-4 months over the winter to try and promote myself ready for spring, which is also another advantage I think I had.
That's great. Yeah, social media is free. It's something you can do. You can put more effort into it, post more often. You can actually put a really minimum budget into like Facebook, Instagram as well, called boosting posts. So basically, you can post, right? You can
Yeah.
have some sort of, hey, call us now, or some call to action. And then you can just put 30 or 50 bucks behind it, and it'll show up in people's newsfeed locally within whatever radius you target, or people
Yeah.
who liked your page previously, those types of audiences. And then, people will see you. That's another way to kind of get the word out for inexpensive. But all those things, just when you're first starting out, are huge because you're getting the name out, and you don't have the massive budget yet, maybe for search marketing or big direct mail campaigns or billboards or whatever else.
Yeah.
So these things are good to get started with, to kind of get the name out there, get people kind of seeing your company and seeing what you're doing and that type of thing. The other thing too on social media that a lot of people fail to do is on their personal profile. A lot of times people have 500, 800, 2,000 friends on their personal profile. Well, if you just post on there about what you're doing, you don't have to post every single post to be a business post about your new business, but maybe every other post, you do some family pictures, or, hey, we're out doing this or doing that.
Yeah.
You can also post, hey, we're out here trimming some
By the
trees.
way, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then just maybe tag your business page from that personal profile post, and
Totally.
people can get over there and see that business page too. But those are things that you're getting in front of a lot of people for free doing it that way too,
And family and friends and things like that are people that want to hire you first. And people would rather hire someone they know, or at least someone that's trusted right away. So like Google reviews even come in handy for a lot of people. They'll just choose you based on the amount of reviews you have and how many are 5-star, because other people have vouched for you. So same thing with family and friends. Like, they know you a little bit, so they trust you, and they'll hire you. And then of course, again, things snowball from there. And one thing I recommend too to people, because I have a lot of newer, younger guys now working with me, or even some other, close to local arborist companies that will call up and chat and ask me how we got started, because they're also looking to start. And I recommend joining some of these community groups. So like, there's a horticultural society, and I'll go to the meetings, once a month over the season, and just get to know people and participate in all the things like seed sharing, whatever it is, any kind of gardening. Participate in those Facebook groups, and I collaborate with like the local greenhouse, and we do like some giveaways online, or I've hosted some pruning workshops like at the greenhouse. And just being out there and involved as a good person in the community, I think really gets your name out and helps out a lot. I mean, even this year we went in the parade and handed out candy in the rain and brought all the kids out and made them all t-shirts and that sort of stuff. So I think there's some good karma factor there too. So if you're doing good things and giving back to the community, you can always do that. That gets your name out there, and people want to promote you as well. One other example is I went to the Ecological Society this year because I cut down a tree with some birds in the nest. Felt terrible, so scooped them up and then got a hold of an ecological society near town, took them out there. They had a big hazardous tree that was like looming and hanging over one of their enclosures from a storm. And then but I did some free work for them. So then I came back and then took care of that tree for them. They did all the debris and stuff, but it was a great way to collaborate with them online through social media, and they were extremely happy, and just was able to donate my time to a local community group like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like any kind of that positive press, right, that you get from other people saying that you're a great guy, great company, doing the right thing, helping out, and doing some free things like that really kind of gets you out there. People just see that, and it's like a feel good story. And then people just remember that, right? They resonate to stuff like that. So that's really good. So another thing too that we've talked to a lot of business owners about, and some of our clients, but then also some people that have been on the podcast, is like, once you become that local professional, the certified arborist that knows the ins and outs of like all the tree species and how to treat them, how to help them, prune them properly, all that, a lot of the tree companies will then funnel up a lot of their clients' issues and arborist type scenarios to a company like yours that knows what they're talking about, knows what they're doing. Because a lot of these tree companies, they just fail to kind of learn that, arborist and tree healthcare and plant healthcare side of the business. So I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
very growing side of the business. And a lot of these certified arborists that become that local community expert end up getting a lot of referrals and a lot of business just from the other tree companies in the area because they're not doing that. Have
Yeah,
you experienced some
100%.
of that yourself?
Yeah, so that's cool you brought that up because like the tree health and that sort of side is kind of my niche and gets me really excited. So again, going back to like the greenhouse in town, that really brought me a lot of business in the beginning because people would phone into their local greenhouse here and say, "Oh, I got something wrong with my tree," or "It's kind of sick." Or when I would go and prune people's trees, they'd wonder like, "Should I prune my tree? Should I remove it?" And I'm like faced with this decision of like, well, I don't know. Like I know it's got this disease in it that I'm starting to recognize, but what should I do about it? So I took some courses in insect and disease management and that sort of thing. And there was always these recommendations at the end of like a certain kind of spray to try and kill a bug or a disease. And then it was crossed out. And then they said, well, you need a pesticide applicator license now to use these. And people are moving away from this kind of treatments for trees. So I'm like, well, what are we supposed to do? Like we're in the field, I'm trying to care for these trees, but I don't really have a solution, at the end of this course. So kind of peeled back the layers and literally got down to the root problem of finding why trees are getting sick. And then I ended up getting interested in permaculture and took a permaculture course and a few other horticulture courses and did a lot of self-study through like the soil food web school online, just watching YouTube videos, reading some books, but really got into soil ecology and living soil systems and just how that works and how the trees live and grow in a healthy way with symbiotic relationships through mycorrhizal fungi and this whole soil food web, they call it, in the ground. When they're photosynthesizing, they're releasing some of their sugars into the soil, and then the microbes come and they eat them and they create waste. It's like a big self-sustaining circle, right? And it made so much sense because like trees, when they grow out in the wild, they grow in a forest and they grow as companions to each other with a great diversity of species and different heights of canopies and ground covers and all this kind of stuff. And all of that is there to shade the ground, retain moisture, and allow decomposition to happen. This all feeds the trees, right? Because no one goes out and waters these trees. And a lot of these insects and diseases are natural, and they're natural parts of the forest system to help break them down and allow new trees to grow. But when we plant trees in an urban setting, we have to look things a little bit differently, and we have to intervene where we can. So I would go and do a lot of health consultations now, which is another part of my business where I've been able to grow. And I'll charge people to come over and just discuss their trees, and we'll go and do like an hour, say, walk around their yard, identify trees, give them a lot of suggestions of things that they can do differently to keep their trees healthy, maybe diagnose them. And people love it. It's basically a permaculture talk, even though they don't even know it. And it goes all back to natural stuff. I'm not trying to sell them on anything, although this would be a good business plan, is to maybe get myself some organic fertilizing tools and that sort of thing, but I'm just not set up for it. But I do recommend them to use compost and wood chips and put in some edging and remove grass and actually water their trees and this kind of stuff. And then, prune them when it's appropriate, because pruning adds stress to trees. So these talks really create a lot of business for me too, because I have a chance to speak with a customer for an hour, and they get to understand that, I know what I'm talking about with the trees, and then they build up that trust, and it's kind of a long lasting thought in their minds, I like to think. And then again, there's a lot of word of mouth, and they tell a lot of people about me, and they have me back for years to come, as opposed to going down that road, kind of as you were alluding to, with doing a lot of tree removals. And I think it's sort of, it's not unfortunate. I know it's a big part of our career, but sometimes it can be easier, especially for companies trying to manage multiple employees. It just could be easier to buy a big truck, buy some big tools, train some people how to use chainsaws safely. And then when you're faced with a tree that's kind of sick, or someone doesn't really want it, it's easy to lean towards removing that tree because, it's more technical, it's more sexy. It makes more money, honestly, to remove a tree. But unfortunately, that tree may have been able to continue growing, and with the lack of education for the client or knowing how to treat that tree, you're also losing the opportunity to care for that tree for years to come. So over time, if you're going to be in business for a while, you could earn more money with a consultation and some pruning than pruning of that tree. In the future, again, maybe you address some of their other trees in their yard and you keep that relationship growing. So I really work towards tree preservation and soil health and that sort of thing. Yeah, it works. I think it's a great way to approach things. But I mean, nothing against other arborists that do a lot of removals. It's definitely necessary as well. And I myself inevitably remove a lot of trees as well. It's just part of the business.
No, those are excellent points. All of those. What we've seen over the years is that for like every tree service company in a local area, there's probably one that knows the arborist side of things very well. I mean, it could be maybe 8 to 1, 10 to 1, 15 to 1 in certain markets, but generally there's one big plant healthcare, tree healthcare company in the area, but they also do the other things, the pruning and the trimming and the, removals,
Yeah.
and all of that. But there's always usually like an expert around town that knows what they're talking about. All of this stuff, as you mentioned, they kind of funnels to this one tree company, this one arborist that knows what they're talking about, and that just goes a long way in the longevity of your business and kind of, I think, growing your business quicker and building up more of those recurring avenues of treatments and going back out there quarter after quarter, month after month, however you schedule it. And so by being that professional in the local market, it just goes a long way because a lot of people are just unwilling to maybe learn that side of the business, but it's super, super important. There's been a big
Yeah.
asterisk on that type of thing, over the last 10 to 20 years, right? Going green and making sure we're saving trees and things like that. So I think it's important. And I think it's a growing side of the industry. And by being that expert, you can really, I think, grow quickly because most people avoid it or don't know much about it or just don't train on it. But as you
Mhm.
go in your tree service company, I think it's just a good idea, you know.
Yeah.
It's
So
just
yeah, I was gonna say that kind of bothered me for a while too, and I didn't know what other arborists were doing out there. And it seems like we're faced with these problems too. Like even the client will be like, "Well, I'm worried about this tree. Like I kind of want to remove it, but you don't know for sure. You can't guarantee that it's not gonna break or something. Like whatever the reason is." Sometimes I come home and feel bad that I cut down a live, healthy tree for whatever the reason might have been. Same with the client. Sometimes they're trying to avoid cutting the tree down, but they feel like it's a safety hazard, and they say they're not one to cut a tree down. So I actually started an alliance for arborists called Atmos Tree, and it's just recently launched now to scale up for all of Canadian arborists and landscapers, and into the US. So one of the solutions I had and created was this 2-to-1 tree cycle program, I call it. So what we do is we charge our clients, and I've been doing it with Cochrane Tree Care, my company, for the last year and a half or so. And we charge a $25 recycling fee in Canada, $20 in the US, and have a little blurb on there that we partner with Atmos Tree to plant 2 trees for each removal. So if there's more than one removal on the same job, we only charge it once. Or if it's a really small job, less than $250 invoice, we don't charge it. But overall, it results in a positive net gain of trees planted. So because it's an alliance, we're advertising this to other arborists, and we have a bunch of people on board already. And same thing, they go out and they can use it as a green marketing tool for their business to advertise that they're planting more trees than they're removing. We provide them with decals and badges and things that they can print, or they can put on their trucks, or they can use the logoing on their websites, collaborate through social media, all this kind of stuff. So I'm trying to help them gain more business in that sense and have a bit of a green solution, but without having to do any work and not to have any cost on their end. Of course, there's a bit of work. They have to educate themselves what the program is, and they can use it as a positive talking or teaching point with clients. But at least there's something there. There's a solution. So we take the funds and manage the funds and look after all the planting, so all the planning, so research, like land acquirement, or working with other organizations in our local area here, or even across Canada and the US. But we have a few that we're starting out with right now to plant trees, mostly through some permaculture type communities, or plantations, sorry. And we're going to try and plant like a good diversity and get a good volume of trees out there. So that's my newest thing, my newest impact I'm trying to give back.
very cool. No, it's a good marketing strategy too. Not just marketing strategy for that, but it's a good feel good. Hey, when I get my tree removed from this company, they're also going to plant 2 trees to kind of replace the one. It's a net gain of trees now that we've taken one out of the ground. We need to plant 2 more. That's a cool little thing too, and like a nice slogan for people. Now, if people want to find out more about that program, Kurt, I'm assuming anybody can kind of contact you and kind of see about it. What's the
Yeah, of
website?
course.
What's the website for that?
Well, it's atmostree.org.
Okay.
So I have a lot of information on there, some frequently asked questions, and it's not too cumbersome. People can check that out. Then they can also reach out through the website, and then I can send them back an email that has a little bit more detailed information. And then if they want Atmos Tree org on Instagram at Atmos Tree org. For every follower there, we're planting a tree as well, so they can come there and check it out and kind of get up to date on what's happening kind of right now. So yeah, I think it's great. And I'm meeting a ton of arborists through Atmos Tree. A lot of people love it, and it's great. Like, people can give me their feedback. Some people have opportunities to plant on land near their area, or know some organizations in their area. So I'm taking lists and ideas from everyone else, so we can kind of like work together and just kind of follow the flow of how things are going to go and how the arborists want to drive it.
That's really cool. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, man. Thanks for sharing all of this with us today. What
Yeah,
are
no
some of the other
problem.
maybe nuggets that you would share with any tree service business owner who maybe got started recently or a year ago, 2 years ago, and they're just pushing forward? They're trying to get their business out there. They're trying to grow. Do you have any sort of words of wisdom for those people that are really trying to kind of ramp up and just kind of solidify their place in the market to get their share of customers and keep their business thriving?
Oh man, there's definitely so many angles, but I probably, I wouldn't be afraid to spend a little bit of money to get some proper tools, equipment, and some good training first out of the gate. I think finding a mentor to help you, like someone that's trusted and does their job well, that you connect with, can be invaluable, especially if you're really new. That's definitely for sure thing. And then, educate yourself maybe on some marketing strategies. I know you promote a lot of marketing, that sort of thing, but marketing really does come down to, I think, people's perception of you, how to brand. And if you need help with that, just get help with it. Not everyone's naturally good at that kind of thing, but you want to present yourself, I think, consistently out in a lot of different places, diversify that way, and then just be authentic, like be a good person, do good things, think of good karma out there. And yeah, I think things will just come back and will work out for you.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time today, man. I appreciate you jumping on. I know we had some scheduling issues there earlier, but Kurt with Cochrane Tree Care, and then also atmostree.org. Really great incentive there for planting trees and sustaining the community, I guess is a good phrase for that. So thanks so much for your time. And
Yeah,
we'll see you
thanks.
guys. Yeah, thank you, Kurt. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Remember, if you're
Take
on
care.
YouTube and you're watching this, like and subscribe to our channel. If you're seeing this on there, if you got value from this video, and if you're seeing this or listening to this on the podcast, like and subscribe to the podcast of your choice. We got plenty more coming up shortly. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thanks so much.